Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. This is Jeff. I'm with Four Muddy Paws, and we are in the kitchen again. And today we're in the kitchen with my friend and professional dog trainer extraordinaire, Kama Brown. And we are here to talk about how we can help our dogs in this, you could say it's a post-quarantine world, or we're in the mid-quarantine world, or at this point, we're honestly just looking at each other going, hey, you're still here? You're going. Would you leave, please, so I can get some rest? And so, or we're on a Zoom call, and that's when they want you. So we are, we've been taking our dogs for lots and lots of walks. And I think there's been some really funny memes out there, with dogs jumping on the cupboards going, no, I'm done with walks. We're done with walks. But how do we keep them engaged? And our store, Four Muddy Paws, me personally, and I know that Kama, we're really think about mental stimulation for our dogs and keeping them occupied, not just physically, because that's super important, but also how do we do it mentally? Because like I always say, 15 minutes of puzzle play is equal to a 1 mile walk. And that's what we really want to focus on. So today, Kama's going to talk. We've got some videos to show. We've got some live action. I have literally, you really can't see it, but I have a kitchen counter full of toys and treats that we're going to talk about today. And you're going to find some new ways to use them, some creative ways, using some products that you're like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. And this is your opportunity to ask questions too. So if you've got a training question, a behavior question, just ask us. So, oh, look at this. We already have someone says, Tammy Malik says, hi, Kama. That's nice.
Oh, I miss you
too. Okay, so Kama, let's let's talk a little bit about, like, in your world, how are you doing with your dogs and in this weird quarantine kind of world? What have you found to be challenging? And
well, so mental enrichment was always a huge part of my dogs and all of the dogs that come here and stay here and that we train as well. Just because, like you talked about, it's a great way to supplement physical exercise. Not every dog can do physical exercise, and some dogs also, it just doesn't run out. I mean, even if you run with them for 10 miles, there are dogs that, after a few hours of nap are ready to be engaged again. So given that situation, yes, one of my favorite things to do is scent work. Anything that has to do with scent is so fun for a dog. Almost every dog of every age, every size, every ability loves scent work. So some easy things to do just to start out with are dropping treats. You can do it around the yard. You could do it like on the deck. You could do it on your patio. Really just dropping like a few treats and then bringing your dog out and letting them sniff is like a really good just beginning start.
Yep.
As we advance, though, we tend to make it more difficult. And so we might hide something. We have a lot of dogs now that if you take a Kong toy or something simple like this and you fill it up, you can hide it in your living room or in your family room. Bring the dog to the front of the room and say, go find it. And just that working with their nose, following the scent, all of that is going to enrich them in a really healthy way.
Right. And I think one of the things we talk about, like hiding, I think it's good to like have stages from the very beginning. You'll take the dog out of the room, you'll put the Kong in, it might not be very hidden at that point. And you'll like find it and like, ooh, this is what it means. I just found it. And then with that,
my dog's barking.
I can hear that. And I think then they can, as you get harder and harder, you can you can hide it in better locations. And but what I like about it is scent work is great, like you said, for young dogs. And I just had a friend who had puppies, and literally these puppies are, I think they're a week old, and they're doing.
I know which puppies you're talking about.
Yep, they're already doing scent work. I mean, they're just smelling new scents, and there's like 5 or 6 or 8 scents that they're smelling, and that's pretty cool. But it's also really good for senior dogs. And what I think it does is take a dog's natural ability, and we're not trying to make them do something they don't already want to do, but we're just saying,
Right.
here's a new way to do it. And you can do it with a Kong. You can do it with all sorts of treats. And then as they get better, you can hide it in the yard. You go, oh, let's go find it. And they've got to really work at it. And I think that's,
yeah. And honestly, even if you don't have time or feel like hiding things, just while you're walking, letting them take more time to sniff is a really great enrichment factor in itself. A lot of times from a training perspective, sometimes we see a lot of problems because when you keep the leash really tight and you keep the dog really close to you, they're forced to use their vision and their ears to experience the world. And sometimes that creates an overreaction because they're not able to experience the world through their scent as deeply as they would like. And so a lot of times when we have dogs who are, just barking at the sight of another dog, we really start out with like, hey, let's get the dog smelling something while another dog is passing by. Or once that dog passes by, we let them go and smell where that dog has been, because if you help them, if they're just relying so much on their vision and their hearing, then they tend to be more vocal about. Yeah. So we use scent a lot just when we're starting to change behavior as well. We really encourage the dog to use scent as part of their behavior modification.
And I think of scent as being their social media. That's where they get all their information out. And who was there in the past, and not even just in the last couple of minutes, but the past hour, the past days, week, all that information is there. So I like to, when I would break my walks up, I break them up almost into 3 parts. So the first part is just, let's walk for a few houses and we'll just smell. And we're not going to go anywhere fast. We're just going to let the dog smell. And then we may, walk a little faster. And then we might even then pull them up a little closer and then do a speed walk for like a few houses. And then we'll let them go again. So like a transport walk. So they're more, just sort of breaking everything up into 3 parts. And as Patricia McCollum will say, I mean, we're primates, they're canines. We see the world very differently. They smell the world, we see the world.
It's true. And sometimes though, that's great. I mean, when older dogs who lose their vision, or any dog that's gone blind, I mean, it can be a real comfort for the owners to know that it's not their main way of experiencing the world. Their scent actually is. And I don't think dogs really, truly ever lose that, even as they age. So it's just a nice thing to let them know that we know that they experience things that way, and build some of our training and our enrichment around it.
Right. So that's one of the things that we can do is through that scent work. What are some other activities that we could do?
For enrichment?
For enrichment.
Yeah, gosh, there's so many. So another great enrichment activity is to practice simple tricks that might later benefit you, especially if you've not left the house for a while. So I think I sent you a video clip earlier, but one of the things that is good is to practice having your dog wait at the door, when you go in and out of it, or when people come over. But one way that we start with that is helping them realize that there's more interesting things about the door than just the door opening and closing. So in this video that I sent, it's my dog Zero, and I've got his bed, and I've got a training toy. I think it's this one, and I put the bully stick in it. And I'm just encouraging him to interact with that instead of focusing so much on the door. You can see when I first leave, his first inclination is just to follow me and see what I'm doing and jump on the door screen. And so by using these enrichment tools, we can sort of bring focus back to them and less focus on the door.
So let's, we can watch this. So it's like 25 seconds. So
yeah, it's pretty short.
It's short. Okay. So that is a pretty interesting, pretty accurate. Door.
So you can see he really wants to go with me and see what I'm doing. There he goes. And I think it's important to see, does your dog play with it? Is your dog interested in it? If I had done a less valuable treat, he might have just kept whining and barking at the door. So that would have been some feedback for me to know, I need to get something that he feels is higher value.
Right. And I think that's important, really experimenting with your dogs. What do they find enriching? What kind of chew toys do they like? What do they like to do? What do they naturally gravitate to? And I don't know which dog trainer had said this, but one they call them the Goodall game. So thinking about Jane Goodall and literally just watching your dog at play on their own. What kind of toys do they gravitate to? Even when they're outside, what do they like to do? Are they digging? Are they smelling? Are they running around? Are they listening for things? Or what do they like to do naturally? Then that's a way that you can capitalize on all of that. So, hey, we have our first question. So this is from Bama Fan. My dog chewed up a drink coaster with hard plastic and rubber last night. Any advice on what I should do?
Yeah, so it's probably a great idea to get some rubber toys. It sounds like your dog is really, well, one, he might have just been bored. And so all of the things we're offering here could work with that. But there are, depending on your dog's breed, some dogs really want that back molar chewing sensation. Some dogs, like terriers, really like to de-stuff things. And so you'll see them more working with the front of their mouth to pull things apart. But other dogs really want this like grinding, biting sensation. And a lot of times rubber toys work really well for that. So I might recommend this Quidzel toy. This is a good, really hard, like I've given this to a pit bull for the last few days. And you can put bully sticks in there to make it more interesting. You could also just shove some treats in the side, but I would probably leave it similar to wherever the drink coaster was. So like if the drink coaster was on the, nightstand, then I might put this right under the nightstand. So when your dog repeats the habit of looking for some type of enrichment, he'll see this with a bully stick. And then obviously that will be, well, hopefully that would be more fun than the drink coaster. So when we're first starting out with puppies, one of the things I talk about, and I actually have a video of it in the online training class, but it's when we're first trying to get our dogs to, when they seek enrichment, seek the things that we've provided for them, we tend to pair them up. So like, for example, if you have a dog that is really eating like all of your child's toys, like all of the Barbies or, all of the little people, then you would put these types of toys next to those situations because dogs tend to repeat the same habits if it worked. So if your dog's sitting around thinking, man, I'm so bored, I wish I had something to chew on, then they're going to go around and sniff and find something, and you want them to find the thing that you've put for them. Instead of exploring the other options.
Right. And I think it's good because I'm sure the dog wasn't walking around the house going, I need a drink coaster with some hard plastic. It was probably like, well, this is at eye level. I want to chew something. I don't have anything else to chew. Let me chew this. Now, just medically, just make sure that they didn't eat anything or want to watch them from if they did ingested something, make sure that they're pooping and eating normally and all of, making sure that they didn't that could really hurt them. But another thing, just from a chew standpoint, we have like the buffalo horns, which are really nice as well. So you can almost think of that as a con because you could stuff some nice treats in there. You could smear that with a little bit of peanut butter or yogurt. You could even put that in the freezer, and then they could lick that peanut butter off and then get all sorts of treats. But that's a nice chew that they can have. So apparently,
or the Himalayan.
Right. She swallowed the pieces, I guess, but can't find them anywhere. So I would just watch her and make sure that, as I said, she's pooping and peeing okay. Look for any blood in the poops or the stools, and just kind of keep your eye on her, on your dog, just to make sure that she's not in any danger. Most likely, I just talked to a friend today whose dog had at one point eaten like all these hors d'oeuvres with toothpicks, and somehow, like literally, like a few days later, the toothpicks just came out in a nice big bundle already, like they were purchased that way. A lot of things pass naturally through the stool, but sometimes they can get stuck. So it's always good just to monitor that and make sure they're okay. But another good chew toy, which you don't always think about, are the tracheas, because you can eat just the trachea. That's a nice chew, but you can also fill it. You could cap it with you could fill it with different kinds of treats and then cap it again with peanut butter or something, or freeze it. And then they've got a really nice natural chew for them. And they come in different sizes. And even if you didn't want this is a 12-inch trachea, you could just cut this up into smaller bites and make them all smaller treats for them. So a really good action there as well. So Burma fan says, thanks. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. We've all been there. We've all been there.
And to your point earlier, Jeff, a few weeks ago, I was actually given a great fun opportunity to temperament test some puppies. And one of the things that we do in the test is rank their natural, what they naturally find most appealing between food and play and tug and fetch, and all of that. So it is really important whenever you hear dog training advice to sort of think how it affects your natural dog. I mean, your own dog. So if anyone says, oh, go ahead and use, treats, but you have a dog that really wants to tug, then just go ahead and do the same training, but with a tug toy.
Yeah, it's whatever the dog finds enriching, whatever they'd want to go to, whatever they, find rewarding is what you want to eat. And now we're all different, and every dog, even within the same dog breed family or the same dog breed, we're all going to be different. And especially when you temperament test puppies, even within families of puppies, one litter of puppies, they're very different. One's an agility dog, one's a scent dog, one's going to talk, like they're going to explore. They're all different temperaments. So they all have their individual personalities, and no one's better or different than the other. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're really just temperament testing them to make sure we're pairing them up with what people want. Because I've, like Labradors are a great example. There's a huge range with Labradors. Some Labradors are hunting dogs and they're hunting, 400 ducks a season. And other Labradors are reading, allowing to be read to by children in libraries. So those are, two very, very different personalities, even though they're the exact same breed of dog.
Exactly. We have another one. We've got either the grass puzzle video or the toy demo video. Maybe we'll go to the toy demo one.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I voice over that one.
We can share.
In this video, you'll sort of see a lot of the treats and toys that I go to first. These are some of my favorites. They work with a wide range of dogs. You can use all of the treats here in pretty much any size toy. And yeah, these are great toys.
And we carry all these online on our online shop as well, because we do believe in all of these toys. So yeah, let's give a listen here.
Okay, so I like to start with the Snoop. It holds quite a bit of kibble, and it's a really nice, easy introduction food toy. I usually mix some of the Stella and Chewy's raw with my kibble to make it more enticing. But you just unpop it, and then you spoon the kibble in, and you pop it back down. When the dog moves it around with his paw, it rolls out. That classic Kong is also another great beginner toy. So you can fill it up with some fruits and vegetables, and then top it off with a frozen force-to treat or a little bit of peanut butter, yogurt, and freeze. Here's the Kong Genius. I'm putting a bully stick in the bottom of it to make the bully stick last longer, but you could also use the other treats inside that toy. The Topple is probably my favorite toy. You can use dry ingredients and treats like I'm using here. I'm starting out, as for a beginner, to use something small enough that it'll fit through the front hole. So when the puppy or dog moves their paw with it, it comes out easily. But it holds up to very tough chewers. So it's just a really great toy all around. Here I'm using the same toy, but instead of using dry ingredients, I'm using a little bit of raw bites, and then I'm topping it with some wet canned food. And then I would go ahead and put this in the freezer before I would give it to the puppy or dog. This will make it last longer than just giving it to them wet. But if I have a beginner dog who's new to food toys, I probably wouldn't freeze it the first time. And then just for fun, I like to add some extras, like a healthy fruit or vegetable, maybe some banana chips, something to keep it crunchy and interesting. This is another Kong Genius toy, and I'm just going to stuff a Himalayan chew into this. Sometimes it's easier for the pups to chew on one end when they've got a rubber part to hold onto, and it makes it last longer. Here's another Himalayan chew and a no-hide. They can be fed on their own, and they're really great.
Excellent. Okay, hang on.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's I think those are really, really helpful and new ideas on how to work with puzzle toys. So it's not just putting just regular, even dry treats in, but it's putting some of those wet ingredients in as well. I think adding things in, we've got the green juju, which is like super greens. So those are really nice. It's super greens in a bone broth. So I think this is a great treat, and even a tablespoon a day. It has huge antioxidant, anti-cancer properties. A Purdue study has shown that it's really pretty dramatic results when you add super greens into your dog's diet every day. It makes a big difference getting all those vitamins and minerals and antioxidants just from their food. But this way they get it in their treat, and it's even better. So we've got even things like goat's milk you can add in, which is really nice. You can rehydrate, freeze dried with that as well. And then, what else do we have? Yeah, the other ones too, which I don't always think about, but they're little raw goat's milk cheese bites. So they come frozen, just thaw them out, and then you can break them up into smaller pieces. And they're really nice just for a training treat, but also as a little extra treat to put in your puzzle toy. So, and they're getting, it really helps with digestion as well. And they have blueberry, cranberry, all different kind of ginger, and all sorts of different options with those. But they're really nice with that. All those, the topples and all that stuff. One thing I wanted to mention when we're talking about puzzle toys, which I think is important, people forget sometimes, is that when you're using your puzzle toy, and then when you're done, take your puzzle toy away. That's a puzzle toy. This isn't a toy that lays around on the ground on your floor day in and day out, because they're like, oh, I always see that toy, and then is there something in it? Or they'll just start chewing it and get frustrated that there's nothing in it anymore, and they'll just so important to pull your toys up when they're done, specifically your puzzle toys when they're done, so that you can rotate your puzzle toys, and then they're fresh and new when they do come out again, and they just tend to last a lot longer that way.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that, because the very first time, probably 20 years ago now, that I bought a Kong, I was really disappointed in it. I had heard so many people say, this is an amazing toy, and it keeps your dog out of trouble, and it keeps them interested. And when people come over, they don't jump because they're just playing with their toy. And I bought it, and my dog, I had a border collie at the time. I mean, one of the breeds that's supposed to love toys more than the others. And he really wanted nothing to do with it. And it was because I did exactly like you said. I just didn't fill it up with anything, actually. And I put it in front of him, and I left it on the ground. And so, yeah, it's important to note that these types of toys that we're showing here are really meant to be engaging. And you've got to add to the engagement. So a lot of times, even the very tough chewers want something in here, and without putting anything in here, it's a little bit of a dead toy.
It's true. It's not that interesting. And then that's when they get attacked and they go after it, and they don't last, because they're just like, I'm just going to eat it up because I don't know what else to chew with.
And that's kind of in the video too. I point to when you're first introducing puzzle toys, it has to be, the dog has to be able to achieve it. So again, with the Kong, which is one of my favorite toys, if you just take hard biscuits and you stuff them in here to like the impossible factor that you can't even pull the biscuits out, unless you have a very aggressive chewer, your dog is not going to play with this. Because biscuits aren't very, there's not a lot of smell to them. There's not a lot of way for them to get reinforced by just licking them. So like those cheese bites or the frozen Forster treats, anything that when they lick, they get a little bit of sensation back at the same time. Those are great because it reinforces every single attempt, not just getting the whole thing out. You don't really want them to have to get the whole treat out to get any type of reward. So the same with the super greens and all of that. I mean, anything that is giving them a little bit of feedback while they're chewing it is great. But just if you see like your dog's not playing with the food toys, definitely make it a little bit easier or find a way to help them and then build it up.
And I like your point in the video as well, because I always think of it in these terms, is having different textures. So you might have, if you do freeze it, like the peanut butter has one texture, and then when they lick through that peanut butter cap or the Forster cap, then you've got, like this might be these are beef tripe treats, so they're going to be nice and stinky, but maybe in combination with some really simple Charlie Bears, because they're going to be crunchy, and then maybe some cheesy bites, or maybe some chewy, more chewy treats. so that there's a variety of things inside. It's not just like one treat, but it's a smorgasbord. They don't know what's going to be in there. They don't know what's going to pop out again. And it keeps them really engaged and interested.
Yeah. And it does feel like extra effort, but honestly, it makes treats last longer. So if you're going through bags of treats really quickly, these toys are a great investment in, like what you were saying with the Charlie Bears and the other treats, you might be able to fill, like this toy. I mean, the Snoop.
Right.
Yeah, I love this toy. You can just put like 3 or 4 treats in there, and that will keep them busy for a really long time. If you
there's a hole on this end so they can smell it. They can see it. Well, they can see it and they can smell it. It makes sound. It really does everything. And then they do make a thing called a Nook.
Yeah, perfect. I was just gonna mention.
So then the Nook fits in. This is a small Snoop. The Nook fits better into the big Snoop, but that makes it even harder. So you can put treats in here, and then you got to get this out to get to here. And there's all sorts of ways to play around with that. So be creative with your toys, and you get a lot, like Kama said, you get a lot more life out of them, and it keeps them active. And remember, 15 minutes of puzzle play is a 1 mile walk. So you don't have to take your 3 walks a day. If it's a rainy day, you don't want to. If it's too cold, too hot, all of those extremes, then it's a good day to have puzzle toys. So maybe, a couple different puzzle toys that day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and then a walk might be enough for your dog. You know your dog, you know how much they want, but that keeps them really occupied. Remember, though, from a nutrition standpoint, try to keep your treats to be, nutritious. So more protein treats than biscuity kind of treats. So you're lowering the carbs. And then if you have a heavier treat day, just reduce the amount of food you're feeding that day, just to watch a calorie intake, because treats count as calories, as we all know, getting through this quarantine. So all those chips and everything else we might be eating, those all count.
And that dehydrated raw is a great way to get boring treats a little bit more interesting. So one of the dogs that I have here right now training, he needs a lot of constant engagement. And so one of the things we do is we take those dehydrated treats that you just had, and we grind them up into a powder, and then we put that over his food, or like the Charlie Bear treats, something lower calorie, and that entices him quite a bit.
Yeah, it's really great because it smells more, and then you've got a nice little training treat, but then you're getting real nutrition. This is just a combination of muscle, meat, organ, meat, and bone, and some fruits and vegetables. So you're really giving them nutrition on top of getting them active with a treat. So I think that's really important. And one of the things you showed with the Snoop was just putting their kibble in there. And I think we'll go to the other video that you have using the green toy. So.
Yeah, so this dog is Sam. Sam is he's older, he's about 10, and he's much more on the nervous end of the personality. So while I was filming this video, it actually took me about 5 or 6 minutes to even get him interested in the toy. We never put him behind the gate when he's over at our house. And so this was a new experience for him. So this could be one of the things you want to do if you've been home with your dog this whole time and you're starting to go to work for short periods or even longer days, is to warm up to that. Find a gate or some type of separation in your home and work on them being in another room, but being interested while you're not exactly with them. So when I first put him in this room, he didn't want to play with the food toy because there was nothing on the floor for him to stand on. He didn't like leaning forward into the food toy because his back feet, he's older and his back feet were sliding. So I went ahead and put a pillow on the floor for him. And then I just spent a few minutes really showing him the treats and really getting him interested in it. And then he was perfectly fine for me to leave the room and interact with the toy. But just a little background info, when I first put it down, he stood right at that gate whining at me. And so I had to backtrack a little bit and make sure that it was something he was really interested in and something that he was willing to be distracted by.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you mentioned, like, even with the back legs, you put a pillow there to help his back legs. Be aware of your environment too with toys, because if you're in the middle of a busy house and there's lots of stuff going on, if kids are running around, or there's just it's a higher traffic area of your house and there's a lot of activity, it just may not be the right environment for your dog to want to play at that time. So be aware of what kind of environment you're creating for your dog, because I think that makes a difference. in their ability and willingness to start to explore and really play. Because play only happens when we feel comfortable and safe. So if we don't feel safe, we don't feel comfortable, then play just doesn't happen. And that works with people too.
Right.
Yeah. Let's watch this. Great.
Okay, so I'm going to start out by just putting some treats in the toy in a room that's gated off. And I'm not going to go too far or too long. And it's important to make sure that they're actually eating and enjoying the treats before you really completely leave. So this is good. So now I'm going to go ahead and just sneak away for maybe about 10 minutes, and then I'll come back.
Perfect. That's a nice way to be able to keep the dog engaged, because then you're leaving, they had something else to do and occupy their time with. So
yeah, it is. It's good for older dogs who certainly don't need to be in a kennel and aren't used to being restricted at all in their house. It might really be a shock to them when you go back now having been, home for 10 weeks. Right. So it's good to start out slow. I'd say with puppies, any dog, probably under the first year, but certainly any dog under 8 or 9 months is already going to need to be on a schedule. So a lot of times when people bring puppies home, they're not aware of how much sleep puppies need. And puppies really, really truly need about 18 hours of sleep a day. Yeah. And so a lot of times when I get calls and they're like, the puppy is just biting me and he won't stop biting me. I just walk around the house and he's biting my legs and biting my arms, or, the puppy just constantly seems to have a motor. It's because they're like in hyper mode because they haven't had enough sleep, which sounds counterintuitive, but it is just what it is. And so a really great way to reduce behavior problems in puppies is just to keep them on a schedule. Depending on what age they are, I would say usually about 2.5, 3 hours is a good nap. And you could probably, while you're home, do that twice. So if you start that now, then that should help. Even though you're home, your puppy get used to the fact that there are down times when you're not right with them.
Right. And I think one of the things you showed with the Snoop was filling it with food. So, I like to think if dinner time could take, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, as opposed to 30 seconds, that would be great. So just using things like, like a kibble nibble, putting the treats in there and they roll it around and the food comes out. Or tug a jug is another really great plastic one. Those work really well. Even for the smaller ones, the twist and treats. Twist and treats are pretty fun. That's actually a good hard chew too. If they want to chew that, it lasts up, and you can tighten it, loosen it, so more kibble or less kibble comes out of there. And then like that green grass, the minis, the green toy, the super green toy. So it comes in 2 sizes. This one's the mini. The one that I was showing was the large. But it's a really great way to do that. Or we have like fun feeders, which are really a nice way to be able to put your kibble in there, and then they've got to work for it a little bit. So I think that's really important, just keeping them busy. One of the things with separation anxiety too that you could do is use like a lick mat. So lick mats are super versatile. And Kim, I don't know if you want to talk about a little bit about some of the ways that you might use a lick mat.
Yeah, I mean, the lick mats are really great. For puppies in particular, we use them a lot when we're starting grooming, nail trimming, ear cleaning, all of that. You can go ahead and put just a pretty much thin layer of dog food or yogurt mixed with peanut butter. I mean, any type of like sort of thick consistency type treat. You can just put it straight on there and put the mat on the ground, or you can freeze it first for dogs that you need them to stand a little longer. But especially with nail trimming, it's a really great way to get them interested in that. Hopefully, as things open up more, professional dog grooming, people will be able to get back in line and get their dog in there. But still, if you're at home and you will be at home for a lot longer, don't ignore those things, because we don't want our dogs to have this shock when they go in for the first time and they haven't been exposed to it. The same thing with barking. So the lick mats are really great if you have a dog that barks consistently when people walk by the window or walk by the door, like the UPS or the Amazon guy. You can put those right underneath. And so when they're barking, you can go ahead and hopefully before they're barking, put that down and encourage them to focus on something else. So they're really, really versatile, and they're great, and they're small. And like I said, it's another way. I mean, you can make 1 can of dog food last like 10 lick-a-mats. Yeah. Just using a few tablespoons. So it's another way to get like more for your money if you're buying treats and toys.
Right. And they'll stick. Yeah. Cause they will stick with that. But one of the things I think that's important is to remember is like, think in terms of what do I have an issue with my dog? What would I rather have my dog doing? And how can I make that happen? As opposed to, I don't like it when they jump at the door when the mailman comes. Well, what else could they be doing? They're doing that because that at the moment is the most rewarding thing they're going to see. But I think if we can create another alternative to say, here you go. And this is, you've got something there. So as far as like when we start to go back to work or when we start to leave the house a little bit more, some dogs really might have a little bit of separation anxiety. So just real quickly, a couple tips on how you might deal with that.
Yeah. So sort of like we just talked about, the schedule is a big thing. Whatever schedule you're going to be going back to work with, I would try to practice that schedule now. So for example, if you're going to be gone on an average day from 9 to 5, I would make a point now to leave the house around 9, maybe just drive around for half an hour, and then come back, just so they start to get used to this routine. And then, just sort of what we were discussing, helping them stay in another room without you, walking, not making such a big deal out of leaving the door. Like if you haven't actually walked out of your door for a while.
Right. A lot of people haven't. They've been.
Yeah, that could be a big trigger for some dogs.
Not every time you leave the house do they go with you, which is the other thing, because every time you leave the house, a lot of the times it's going to be like, let's go for a walk, because that's your time to get out. But it's not. They're going to have to get used to just being at home.
Yeah, absolutely. So just sort of thinking about those moments that they should start getting ready to expect is what you want to start putting into place now.
And that may not be till August, but you've got 3 months to work on it. And I'm telling you, when we created our dogs, like for the first year, we would crate Salem, we'd crate Foster, our previous dogs. And whenever they went in their crate, they always got treats. And in fact, I'd always save my frozen Kong for when we had to put them in the kennel. And they would just run. Foster would always run to his crate. If I was going to give him a treat in the kitchen, he'd run to his crate to get his treats. But then they knew if we ever left, that's when they got their frozen Kong, and it was a big deal. So they're almost like, okay, see ya, because I want a treat. And that's what you want. That's where you want to get to, so that you can avoid a lot of the anxiousness of this. So start now planning, because we may be going back to work in September, or whoever knows when. But at some point, we're not going to be with our dogs 24 hours a day, and they're going to need to have that separation. Particularly all these new dogs that have just been adopted. A lot of the rescues have been getting dogs are now adopted, which is wonderful. But they've been adopted in this like really wonderful place where we're all home all the time with them, and they may not be used to it, and it's not going to be like flipping a switch. Dogs
have a big natural inclination to be near a human. So I know one of the things I know that we talk about a lot is, one of the things we love about dogs is it doesn't matter if you live in a tiny shack or you live in a mansion. I mean, they'll be right next to you.
Oh, true. Right.
So that's where they usually feel more comfortable, and that's where they're happiest. And so, I think it's important that we help them adjust, not only just to us being gone, but the fact that the house is going to be quieter. There's not going to be as many sights and sounds, so that's another thing. If you always have the TV on, maybe when you leave, keep it on so that it's not just one more, stark, like you said, one more light switch difference. Just try to keep a little bit of the comforts for them.
Yeah. So I think it's just planning ahead now, and we can help you with that. Just shoot any ideas to me. I get them to Kama. We'll help. And Kama, I guess you can talk a little bit about, you've got your, which is really cool in this social distancing world, but trying to get our puppies socialized and trained kind of virtually. And you've got a really cool pandemic puppy class.
Yeah. I do. Yeah. So if anybody is interested, you can actually go to forstadog.com. It's FORSTA dog.com. And there's a link that says online puppy class. And it gives you some more information. But we work a lot on obedience. There's a whole section of obedience. But the other section is really just things that we might not think about. Like, you know, when we reach out and grab their collar, that might make them back up. So we need to do some training where we reach out, grab their collar, give them a treat. As far as socialization experiences, if you have a small dog that you're hoping, you know, to pick up and put in a carrier or in a purse or take somewhere, even if you're not leaving, you want to start practicing that now, because that's, you know, if you're someone who travels and you want to travel in an airplane, right now, get the carrier out, throw some treats in, teach them to go in and out. The same with a car. If you have a big dog that you want to be able to take to the park, you know, practice getting in the car, practice getting out of the car. It's very hard to have a big dog that refuses to get into a car.
And it happens more often than not. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And so in puppyhood is sort of like the magical time where we can really convince them that these scary things are good. And the same with rescue dogs. I mean, a lot of times people think like, oh, my rescue dog can't do this or that. And sometimes that is true. They've, you know, been neglected or abused in a way that won't allow these things to be fun for them. But a lot of times the first 2 or 3 weeks that you bring your dog home of any age is a really great chance for you to like build some habits, let them know that you guys do go and get ice cream, you know, or, you know, your kids ride bicycles while you walk them. I mean, that could really be scary to a puppy or a dog. So you want to take those first few weeks and certainly the first 16 weeks of puppyhood to like get out of the house as much as you can in your own neighborhood. Trash trucks are another thing that tend to be really scary for puppies, like taking your trash to the street, the trash truck coming. So whenever the trash truck comes here, the puppies that I'm training, I have treats ready to make that like a fun experience so that when they're, you know, when I do finally go outside and talk to my trash man again, I don't have a growling or a shivering, hiding dog.
And the same thing when we're working on, as we're in the middle of some spring, summer storms, thunderstorms, lightning storms, hailstorms, things like that. Just throw a puppy party when those things are happening, particularly when you've got a young dog, so that they can understand that, oh, this isn't so scary. We actually have good things that happen. And then eventually they won't create. I always say if you don't help create a story for them, they will create their own even scarier story about these things they don't know about. So if you help them understand and interpret their world, boy, you've just come so far in helping them just like, oh, okay, I got this. But they don't make anything up. And believe me, I think in their little dog brains or big dog, I mean, their brains, they will create some amazing stories and in their own world. And we don't want them to be scared. We want them to be happy and comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, and the funny thing is, especially if you have another dog, a lot of times people think, oh, I'll get another dog and this will help the first dog get over something. But a lot of times the opposite happens. If you have a dog that's very phobic of strangers, then the new puppy or the new dog is more likely to pick that up from the other dog, especially if you don't intervene. So it's good. It's good to intervene. And sometimes I feel like when I say these things, people think, well, man, I'll just be shilling out treats all day and, you know, all night, and I'm just doing this. But that, again, kind of goes back to keeping them on a schedule. So, you know, my puppies might take a nap for 3 hours. And then when I get them up and we go to the bathroom, when I'm ready to train them, it's really only for 20, 30, maybe 40 minutes at the most. And then I might keep them on a leash next to me so that I can keep an eye on them. I might put them in an X pen with a bed and some toys. So, you know, a tether is another management tool that we talk about a lot in puppy class. And so the amount of time that I've really got to focus one-on-one on a puppy is really, you know, just maybe 45 minutes broken up, you know, 4 or 5 times a day. So it becomes a lot easier to train through these things if you don't have a puppy or a dog that's just got free range to take naps when it wants to eat when it wants to play with toys when it wants to. And so, yeah, that definitely takes a little bit of the load off when you're when you're trying to train puppies, especially if you're training with food.
Right, and especially during this time when we can't get out and do everything that we would normally do with our puppies. So that's important. So, okay, well, I think we've covered a lot of material. And I really want to thank you for all your time and preparation and pulling this together. It's been really fun to talk with you, as it always is, and to share good information, I think, about dogs and helping people understand their dogs and give them a few tools that they can use in their day-to-day life. So these are unusual times, but everything we talked about today, we would have talked about a year ago, and we'll talk about 5 years from now. It's all standard, good practices to get into, no matter what time we're in. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think enrichment, toys, and training are part of what makes a dog happy. So.
And it enriches your connection with your dog, and I think that's what we're really looking at doing as well. So you just become a really good partner team. So we want to thank everybody who's watching, and if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you very much. It's on. This will be on our YouTube channel. FormityPaws.com. We have all the In the Kitchen series there. Sometimes we talk about nutrition. Sometimes we talk about training. Sometimes we had a tour of West Paw, which was really fun, and saw how toys were made in a factory in Bozeman, Montana. So we take you all different kinds of places. So we want to thank you for your support, and thank Kema for your time today. And we'll see everybody later. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.